My father arrived in France around 1930, and he left when the Germans came into Paris. He was very lucky. He escaped ultimately to Morocco, and then from there, after a couple of years, I think, um, came to the U.S. His years in Paris, I think, were probably the most formative years in his life, and the years with which he most that he was happiest and most identified with. I don't mean happiest. I mean, I know his true happiness was ultimately with his family, with us, my mom. But he found his voice as a writer. He was part of a Paris that between the wars was, one of the most exciting periods, I think, in history, in terms of the fluidity and interaction between artists and writers. And my father was in the midst of it, contained in that I'm pretty sure he traveled only in Jewish circles, although his French was pretty good. And I think, and he, but he was aware of everything. As I said, while the writers and artists with whom he associated were mainly from a Jewish circle, there's no doubt that he was aware of all the art going on at the time, from Picasso and Matisse to everyone. He was in touch with Chagall for a long time after being in New York. And it's he always, I mean, he appreciated being in America, and he did feel that, his life had been saved by America, so to speak. But he was critical of America. Well, he was critical of governments in general and had a more leftist orientation. But he really would say, he was a Frenchman. I mean, he was a Jew first, but then he was a Frenchman. And one of the things that came as a major shock to me was I grew up believing in France and believing in France during the war and everything, no blemish on the French. Despite the fact that on some level, I did know that his brother and sister were deported and killed in Auschwitz. I remember when I was, I think I was a teenager, and I think it was playing at the New Yorker Theater on 89th Street. We're now on 86th Street. When I saw The Sorrow and the Pity when it first came out, and being completely blown away. I mean, I just had never stopped, while these were not facts that I didn't know, I had never kind of put them together and thought of the French as the extent to which they collaborated. And I almost felt a little bit betrayed that I had grown up with this, anti-German, anti-Polish, anti-East European feeling. We just, as I said, I grew up never forgetting about the war, and what it meant to Jews. But France had been exempt. And it's not something that I know I talked about it with my father. I think he just associated that time in France with freedom, with a creative burst of his own creativity and of creativity with others. It was the first for all these artists who came to France at that time. It was their first chance to live in a secular world. It was like landing on another planet from what they had come from. And I think the richness and the friendships and the opening up of so many different worlds to him just took precedence.